This episode of Hak5 is brought to you by Domain.com.
Hello, welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen, and today I am joined by Piotr Esden-Tempski. Dude, what is up?
How are you doing?
I am so happy to be here. We are, of course, up in Eugene, Oregon, beautiful place, and we are starting a new series on drones.
Yeah, it will be fun.
Well, though I just say drones because that is, of course, the term that gets all the media attention.
Yeah, they do.
How would you define a drone, and how is that different than, say, a model aircraft?
Well, essentially, what we think of when we talk about drones is actually this big stuff that flies and does bad things to people.
Like surveillance drones, like Predators, or you've got those
shooting rockets and stuff
Hellfire.
Like that. Yeah, exactly. So military, basically. And stuff that we want to talk about, I think, is rather the stuff that we have access to. And this, we would rather call it UAV or UAS. So
UAV is an unmanned aerial vehicle.
Correct.
And an UAS would be an unmanned aerial system. What's the difference there?
That's also very... Everyone probably you will ask will have their own definition of it.
So ask 10 people, you'll get 11 definitions?
Probably, yes, exactly. And but essentially, UAV, as the name says, is unmanned aerial vehicle. Namely, there's no human sitting in there.
Right. I don't think a human can fit on this one. In fact, it'd have to be a very, very small human. So
yeah,
no.
I don't even think a newborn will fit on it. So it's like it probably would be not
a squirrel.
A squirrel.
Maybe not.
So UAS is probably a broader term then. It's like the UAV, as we call them, it's like we think about autonomy or doing more things with it when we talk UAS, but UAV, but we don't, the term actually doesn't contain it.
Okay.
So
an unmanned aerial vehicle is then just the platform, just the vehicle.
Yeah,
and the system is, well, it's a vehicle that then does something. It's part of a greater
system. It's like it maybe includes some software on your laptop. It may include a ground station and so on and so forth.
And so then the difference, the way that I see it is the difference between, say, a model aircraft and a drone is a drone has a certain level of autonomy where a model aircraft or an RC or a radio controlled aircraft is literally just something that is flown from some person sitting on the ground rather than up in the sky with it.
Yeah, I think the division that you can make is basically you have no sophisticated electronics on the vehicle flying. So RC airplane is basically just a radio link controlling directly the servos on the vehicle, and that's it. It doesn't have anything else. By now, yes, they do have microcontrollers and stuff like that in even the simplest systems, but you could implement it without use of microcontrollers. I think when you get to a spot where you have the requirement of actually having a microcontroller that does something more intelligent than just moving a few servos, I think this is where we start talking about UAVs.
Right, and start talking about drones in the sense that it's an aircraft that is, of course, listening for you to tell it what to do, but if you stop telling it what to do for a moment, it's not about to fall out of the sky.
That's
right.
It
has a certain amount of intelligence.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Even though it's like if you look at fixed-wing airplanes, they would also not immediately fall out of the sky. But as we already
well, tell that to my girlfriend every time she flies, because every time we fly, I have to explain to her essentially how lift works and how airfoils work and how it's okay on a 747 we need like one engine, it's fine. Yeah,
exactly.
All right. Well, what we're really interested in building here is going to be a drone, UAS, UAV, and of that variety, you would mention fixed wings, like an aircraft, like a regular like airplane that we see in the sky.
Yes.
However, we're really interested in this variety that are called multirotors. Explain to me what is a multirotor as opposed to rotorcraft that I may be familiar with previous to getting into this hobby.
Yeah. So what we know or we see is the
since we were little kids.
Since little kids are the big helicopters, like now putting aside the fixed wings, obviously. So something, well, way bigger than this, but essentially a small rotorcraft. The big difference here is that we have more of the rotors. That's why multirotor, obviously. And the difference is also this is mechanically simpler, or it can get also very sophisticated. But what we know, the helicopters that we know.
So you're saying that mechanically a 4-rotor multirotor is mechanically simpler than a, well, I guess this is technically a 2-rotor because you have this guy in the back, or otherwise it'll just spin around.
Yeah, but you also have several servos that have to actuate linkages in the middle of it for a swash plate that is creating differential thrust on the cyclic of the main rotor, and so on. It's actually becoming quite complicated. The helicopters that we see out there, the news helicopters and stuff, they are actually quite complicated systems, and we boil it down with a multirotor to just four motors.
Right. When I look at these propellers, these are just plastic propellers. There's no what this has a swash plate, as you say, that allows you to actually vary the pitch. In fact, of this rotor,
while it is going around,
while it's in motion, changing how much it's pitched. This is just fixed.
Yeah, it is just fixed, and basically you have 4 moving parts. That's it. And here you have. I would have to count 12.
I see a lot of gears and
linkages and stuff like that. So yeah, plastic propellers. 4 brushless motors in this case. And the rest is electrical signals and electronics. That's it.
Would you say that's one of the reasons why this has become such a popular multirotor? This being the 4-rotor, depending on who you ask, a quadcopter, a quadrocopter, a quadracopter, however you decide to pronounce it. We're just going to call it a quad.
Quad, yeah.
Yes. So
it's like, I think Google hits should decide which term is the most popular one.
There you go. Let's leave it to Google.
Yeah, and
because these are just like they flooded the market in the last couple of years. You can find a quadcopter for. In fact, this is one that I love to fly indoors and annoy my cat with, and it's like $40. Little plastic,
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons why they became so popular is the price, because they are produced in such huge quantities, and also the simplification of the mechanicals. So having the 4 moving parts.
And they're 4 of the same exact
moving part. This is why you produce 400 quads. You produce 400 of the same thing.
Yeah.
And as we know, economy of scale.
Right.
And also why we are also very interested in it. You need the electronics to fly it, and we like electronics.
Right. In fact, you're probably wondering to yourself, okay, this is Hak5. Like, are we not going to be hacking the Gibson? Let's start enumerating networks here. And, as you guys know, we love to do that stuff as well and get curious about radio. And this is just another one of those amazing things where, dude, it's like hackers on a plane. It's like hackers in the sky. Let's get some drones going on. And there's a lot of reasons for various. Everybody has like a different reason why they get into this hobby or further into the soon-to-be commercial drone space. What got you into multirotors and into UAS aircraft at all?
So basically, by being a hacker since I can remember, and having Linux on my computer, tinkering with my computer, putting it together, the parts, and then discovering that and having a computer science degree, I'm like, oh, I like software, I like writing software. So I could transcend the interior of my monitor space basically into the real world by going into that hobby. It's like, you have a microcontroller, you have a computer on it.
I see what you're saying. So it's like the physical manifestation of code.
Yes.
So you see, literally, if your code crashes, you crash.
Yes, exactly.
Like the little quad goes upside down.
Yeah,
that's no good.
Or spins like crazy and mows your lawn.
Right. I got into this simply because initially the joy of flight. I mean, I've always been fascinated with flight, and I feel like there's just something really freeing about like being able to project yourself into the sky. There's of course, an element to it where, yes, you can go and buy this off the shelf.
But this is a very good start, right?
And you're right, it is. It is. Like, it is kind of a toy, but
Yeah.
you get started with this toy, just like maybe your first computer was a toy, and next thing you know, you're like, you know,
Yeah, you were
like
tuning
a
it,
Packard
you were
Bell
like-
or a Gateway 2000, but then you're like, I'm gonna build a souped up rig, and you start getting into, you know, modding them with carbon fiber folding frames, and the next thing you know, you're building full-on airframes with
FPV and
with complicated equipment, and it's like the joys of building a computer back in the day. Where we're like, yeah, my liquid cooling rig, and you know, my rated hard drives, and it's very much the same kind of thing because there's so many choices with each component that you can really like.
Yeah, it's like I started also with this brushed motor, the first quadrocopter that you could commercially buy, and then starting replacing the electronics in it, and like writing new software for it, adding some new things into it. And as you say, it's like replacing your front panel to on your computer with 4 lines of characters showing the temperature of your CPU.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, when you start actually drilling into some of the automation stuff and and some of the sensors that you can put on here, you can actually like do some really interesting research.
You can interact with the real world. It's like you can go out there and interact with the like outside of your room and fly your stuff.
In fact, one of the, speaking of telemetry and automation and some of the stuff that you can get back from it, like we're going to put a Wi-Fi pineapple in a drone, obviously. Duh. But one of the things that I love to get back is just a very simple telemetry, which is a video camera feeding me into a pair of goggles what it sees, because it's like this beautiful mesh of like the dream of 90s virtual reality, and all of those, you know, years of playing Descent and Half-Life and Quake and Doom and all of that put into this one spectrum of it that's called FPV, or first-person view. It's just like playing a first-person shooter, except you're in the real world.
Yeah, and it's also not every one of us has the time and money to get into actual airplane flying, sitting in the airplane and flying yourself. And it is, I think, the closest thing that you can get to without actually getting a full-blown pilot's license at the moment. At
the moment, yeah, exactly. We'll come back to that. But you're right. And I mean, essentially what we're talking about here is robotics. We're talking about open source. We're talking about, you can do, I mean, imagine a Beowulf cluster of drones, you know? So
that's right.
So it's all that geeky stuff. And there are so many cool uses, in fact, for this technology, because it's not just I go to the park and I fly for the joy of it. There's amazing stuff, especially here. It's apt that we're in Oregon, where there's so much agriculture being done here.
And forestry.
And this technology applies to that.
Yes, no, definitely. It's the precision agriculture where you want to transcend the moment where you're like spraying everything, independent of how much fertilizer or whatever they need, or how much water, pesticide, bad. Yeah. And what you can do is rent a huge man-carrying helicopter, fly over the field, and map it out and see how the plants are doing. Or you can invest way more money and do it almost every week, and be on and really put water where it is needed and not everywhere.
Send an autonomous drone that can map out your farm and actually give you real actionable data using sensors like thermal imaging and infrared imaging to show you where your irrigation is being effective and stuff like that. It's also fantastic for land surveying, for realty. Search and rescue is kind of an obvious
one.
I know that in 2007 there was a massive wildfire in California, and it was the first time, in fact, that drones were used as in wildfire.
Additional pair of eyes for the firefighters.
Yeah, they can tell
coordination of the firefighters.
Yeah, you can tell where those hotspots are. You know where to deploy your firefighters.
Not only where to deploy, where to keep them out of.
Yeah, it's that's true. And where to start evacuating. Yeah, it's great for again news gathering, right? So say there's a wildfire or another like natural disaster or something like that. In addition to search and rescue, in some instances it would not be feasible to send a news chopper. Now, right now, that's what's being done because of commercial regulations that are outside of the scope of this.
We've seen often enough people flying news helicopters in weather conditions that are more than sketchy.
Sure. And so not only just news, like when we talk about traditional news, but also citizen journalism.
Yeah.
There was Occupy Oakland, Occupy Wall Street, all of those demonstrations going on. And at least I know anecdotally in the case of Occupy Oakland, there was citizen journalism quadcopters overhead doing video of the event to just show, like, here's what the police are doing, here's how everybody is being cool about the whole situation. So there's a lot of really amazing uses for this, even anti-poaching of rhinos in Africa. So it's more than just Hellfire missiles.
Or illegal fishing or stuff like that. Yeah. You have plenty of
And
uses.
actually, speaking of illegal fishing, there is actually some really interesting videos on YouTube of people fishing with octocopters.
Yeah, or filming whales in the middle of ocean.
Where it's not feasible for you to be out there, but you can send it's like a projection of yourself. It's like your avatar. This is some real cyberpunk stuff here.
Yeah.
So William Gibson, take note. Or Daniel Suarez, actually.
Well, actually, there was like in certain games there, it's like there already were the ideas of drones and riggers and stuff like that.
Oh, no, absolutely. I totally feel that.
Yeah.
So before we move on, I think while we've talked about why we're into this and why there's so many amazing uses for this technology, we should probably mention that there are some safety guidelines that you should absolutely follow. And the first one is common sense. Sudo apt get install some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because
think before you fly.
Think before, yeah, exactly. And we're going to be getting into it in complete build out here, and you will see that we're not going to, in fact, even install propellers onto our aircraft until we know that everything is working
fine.
We're not going to fly over people until, in fact, that's just generally a bad idea. I mean, this is still, we're in the infancy of this stuff. I was talking about like the interest of building computers and how cool that was in like the early 90s or something like that.
This is where we are with this.
We're such in the infancy of this stuff. So find out what the rules are in your jurisdiction.
Correct.
I know that there's a lot of great guidelines. For example, here in the United States, there's the Academy of Modelers America, I think.
Model aircraft, I think.
Yeah, I forget the exact, but the AMA, as they were. And, they have some great guidelines that even the FAA recognized back in the 80s and in an aviation circular basically saying that these are good recommended guidelines, and it basically boils down to stand 400 feet, because you don't want to be up at 1,000 feet where other aircraft are. Yeah. Stay at least 3 miles away from airports, because again, you don't want to be in the
flight path.
You don't want to cause any danger to anybody on the ground or in the air, and don't fly, in populated areas, especially not with an untested aircraft.
That's right. Yeah. Just be careful. Just think before you fly, and just don't be a hazard to anyone around you. It's like with anything that you take in your hand and you go on the street, just think before you do stuff.
Right. And with that, we are going to go ahead and kick off the series. Coming up, we're going to get into the hardware of these multirotors, as well as all of the stuff that goes into it. And specifically, we're really interested in the brains, the flight controllers. There's a lot of choices, and we have picked an awesome one, and that's why Peter's here, because we will be using an open source flight controller, the Paparazzi. We're going to build out our first quad. We're going to do our safety checks, our maiden flight. We're going to start adding on telemetry like GPS and other things like that, which will allow us to do interesting stuff like augment us as a pilot with things like being able to hold an altitude or being able to hold a position in space, XYZ. And then finally, even programming these to do some autonomy with like, hey, fly to this waypoint and then fly to that waypoint, and maybe even take off all by yourself, fly over there and land all by yourself.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun.
I'm super excited about this. I want you guys to join us with this. So with all of that, we're going to take a quick break, but we'll see you real soon. It doesn't matter if you're an unmanned aerial vehicle or a unwomaned aerial. I don't know where this is going. Did you know the first female pilots were called aviatrix? Did you also know that when you have a killer idea, you need to snag a domain name and web hosting fast? You totally can with domain.com. They've got this quick domain discovery system and their easy checkout process, so you're having your website up and running in no time. And I've told you guys before how much I love domain.com because they're reliable, they're affordable, they're easy to use, and they have an awesome social media presence. You can tweet them at domain.com. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's just a fun place to do business. And the guys over at domain.com, huge fans of Hak5, they want to hook you up. So get this, use the coupon code HAK5, HAK5 at checkout, and you're going to get an extra 15% off. When you think domain names, think domain.com.
And now it's time for the trivia question of the week. Now, last week's trivia question was, what operating system was projected but failed to replace MS-DOS? And the answer was OS/2. Now, this week's question is, the last version of Windows to use FAT, F-A-T, as the default file system was what? And you can answer that at hak5.org/trivia for your chance to win some awesome Hak5 swag. We've been doing a lot of really cool work with our little RTL-SDR dongle and the antenna, and of course software-defined radio in general. So today I decided to take a breather from all of that hard work since Darren's out of the studio for today, and I'm checking out something really easy and very cool. So there's a program for Android, it's called SDR Touch. This basically uses your RTL-SDR dongle, an Android adapter, and your Android, seen here, to give you a basically little radio and an SDR compatibility on your iPhone, or on your Android phone. So today I have my regular antenna, like I usually do, this little guy, and then I have it plugged into the Android adapter right here, and I'm using a Nexus 5 to pick up the signal on my Android phone. Keep on saying iPhone for some reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this all set up. So you can see my Android device right here, and SDR Touch looks like a little antenna with a signal coming out of it. Kind of reminds me of a Wi-Fi pineapple. Now I already have it turned on, so I'll go ahead and turn it off real quick. This is available in the Google Play Store. It's totally free, but if you do want the Pro version, that one costs $9.99. It's 10 bucks. That's a little bit expensive in my opinion, so I just went with the free one. We'll go over the differences between those two in a little bit, but first off, just to get it working, you don't need to root your phone or anything like that. If you already have rooted your phone, that's fine, totally works just perfectly either way. You simply need 3 pieces of hardware, you know, the antenna, the Android adapter, and then your phone, and then you need the app. You'll also need something called the RTL2832U driver from the Google Play Store, and that's also free, so that your SDR dongle is going to read correctly onto your Android phone. So go ahead and open the app and then click around a little bit. Now you'll notice you simply have to move your finger back and forth to change the channel, change the frequency. You can also move the centerpiece, which is your antenna, to whichever frequency you want to choose. And you can see the numbers change at the top, and this is in megahertz, which is just like SDR Sharp if you've played with that a little bit. Now over on the side we have all the different options. So first off, I can go up to the top and I can turn it on. So automatically it's going to tell me that the driver is turning it on. It might ask you to say okay to that, since the driver, it might be the first time you're using that, so just click okay if it gives you any kind of advice. And then you should start seeing some kind of spectrum. If you don't see the spectrum, click on spectrum over here, and this is interesting. So it tells you, unlock this feature and many more by purchasing a Pro key. So I say no thanks, and I still get a spectrum. So I'm totally cool with getting a spectrum for free. I'm okay with that. I don't know why it does it, but whatever. So I changed my radio to WFM for a simple example of being able to listen to the radio. The presets button down here, right underneath spectrum, that one's going to allow you to do any kind of really cool presets that you want to save. Again, this is only available for the Pro version, so I say no thanks, but that's just if you want to save any kind of options that you've already set. Under that is low CPU. That option will lower the CPU usage of your phone, and you will definitely hear a really big difference with the audio whenever you do this. But on the other hand, even though it sounds crappier, it might be useful though if you're running really low on battery, because this does drain a lot of your battery. Now, next up we have set megahertz, so I can click on that. And this is basically the same thing as moving my antenna around, so it's going to set the frequency. So I have mine set to 98.32 right now, but I can switch it to anything that I want if I wanted to. Very simple. The next button down there is WFM. Of course, that will change if you choose NFM or something similar. So I'll just go to WFM for the example. And you can also do things like AM, NFM, USB. There's tons and tons of different differences in there, so you can use all the ones that we're used to on SDR Sharp. Settings underneath there, if I scroll up on this little menu on the side, I'll click on Settings. So this is where you get your audio settings for your antenna. So I have my gain control all the way up, and my audio gain only about to half. I found that to be the best settings for my particular antenna, but yours might be a little different. Of course, all of these guys are a little bit different from each other, so just play around with it and customize it to whatever you need. There's also PPM correction in the settings too, so if you need to change that a little bit, just fine. Super easy to use, and if you've done it on SDR Sharp, you already know what you're doing. Now these all work just like they do if you've set up SDR Sharp, of course, on your computer. If you need to change the offset of your dongle, you can do that under Offset, and that's under Settings right there. Oops. And if you want to use this program with some sort of remote, there's an option for a remote. So you can basically connect this to your computer that is running RTL-TCP. So I have not checked out that program myself, so I'm going to just hit cancel because I'm not going to be remoting into anything. Squelch is another option down here, so you can change this frequency up and down. And you can see the bar right there changing a little bit. I noticed a little bit of an audio difference whenever I had it about here, maybe because there's less disturbance going on, less audio going on around it. Not sure, but it's a pretty fun little thing to play with. If you want to record the audio, you can also do that if you set up the Pro version as well. So I'll hit no thanks on that. Of course, you can also hit help or exit if you just want to close out of the program. So all of these are really easy to use, very, very simple menu. And there's only a few differences that I noticed between the free version and the Pro version. So your spectrum is the first one, which I was still able to receive, so I can still see a spectrum on the free version. And recording can only be done on the Pro version. I was not able to record anything, but I can see my spectrum just fine. So, you know, just try it before you actually pay for it. That's my suggestion. So I'm going to turn up the audio on here so I can listen to it. So I hear a lot of static. And I'll just scroll over. Have some oldies going on. Yeah, buddy. Woo! If I want to, I can change this around a little bit till it's clear. And it's very, very easy to line it up exactly on the main bar of whatever channel that you're listening to. I have to give it props to that because it's so detailed, it's so easy to move it around that you're going to get a really nice clear image, a clear radio signal from whatever channel you're planning to listen to. So I'll turn this down real quick. Oh, I did want to show you another thing on here. When I change it to low CPU. So right now it's pretty clear. You know, I can hear the audio just fine. But if I hit low CPU, it gets staticky in the background. There's a lot of static, so definite big change there, but very useful since my battery is getting pretty low. So I'm going to go ahead and pause that, and then I'll hit off to turn it off completely. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind with this. This is a big battery hog, like I said. With audio and the screen running your spectrum, you'll see a decrease in your battery pretty quickly. Mine is at 14% now, so yeah, obviously it drains your battery. Also, it's going to make your phone run a little bit hot on the back, and this is pretty similar to like when you're running Google Maps on it. You'll notice that there's quite a bit of heat distributing out the back of your phone. Audio will continue to play if you turn off your screen as well, so you'll need to hit stop whenever you're done using it. But otherwise, it's a very easy program to use. I personally like this because I don't take my laptop everywhere I go, but I might necessarily want to use my Android whenever I'm, you know, going shopping or something, and I just want to listen to the radio or listen to whatever the emergency is going by on the highway or something like that. So it might be kind of fun to listen to the radio on your Android device. I don't know, what do you guys think? It's an easy product, so might as well download it and see what you want to do with it. Let me know what you think. Of course, you can always email me at feedback@hak5.org, and of course, you can comment below if you're on YouTube. And that was SDR Touch for your Android device, available in the Google Play Store for free. It's time for the Technolist photo of the week, and this one comes from Mark. He sent us a short little series of pictures, actually. He says, I was watching your amazing program on a flight from London to New York. That's a really long trip a few days ago, and I was able to slot my Note 3 into the seat in front. So much better quality than the onboard screens. Keep up the good work on the show. I'm really enjoying the SDR stuff. Regards from Mark. Thank you so much, Mark, for sending the photos. I really enjoyed them, and I totally want a Note 3 now that I know that it can just slot into your airplane seat like that. That's so fun. Of course, if you guys have photos, you can always email them, feedback@hak5.org, and make sure to add into the subject line Technolist photo of the week so that we can find them really nice and easy.
That just about wraps up this week's episode of Hak5, and I am super excited to be working with Peter and finally bringing this series to life. We are, I had so much fun in Eugene, Oregon, putting together the beginnings of our Pineapple drone, and we are only starting to scratch the surface. So stick with us as we learn all of the ins and outs, and also how to make sure that your propellers don't end up looking like this, which is good. I should also mention that if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, you want to come out and have brunch with us May 4th. May the 4th be with you will be the theme. Actually, the Pineapple drone and a couple other similar things may be the theme. So come on out if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area to the Hacker Brunch, and then you can find details over at hak5.org/brunch. Hope to see you all there. Also, if you want to follow us, hak5.org/follow has all of our social media stuff, and you can also support the show directly and find some goodies like a Wi-Fi Pineapple over at hakshop.com. That's where you guys make this happen every week, and this is one of my favorite horribly lit and kind of mustache-infested episodes, where it very much harkens back to the old school days where we're just, I mean, yeah, it was a little rough around the edges, but with that right amount of authenticity. I love it. It's so fun to be doing this kind of stuff, and so thanks for sticking with us. I will see you guys next week. Until then, I'm Darren Kitchen, and for Shannon Morse, trust your technolust.